nobody's perfect, and that means you're going to make mistakes now and then. But if you own up to them and remedy them correctly, they can help you become a more respected, dependable, and resourceful person. Hey guys, it's me again, Malak from the MTZ Weekly Podcast, the show where you learn something new every time you join us. I hope you're all doing good. Right, this episode we're going to be talking about owning your mistakes and learning from them to become a better person. Right, before we get started, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram by typing MTZ Weekly Podcast. That's again, MTZ Weekly Podcast. And if you'd love to stay updated with our discussions and, new things coming up, you can follow us on Twitter. It's MTZ Podcast on Twitter. So that's MTZ Podcast on Twitter. And let's dive in. Right, so starting this episode, I'm just going to say that owning your mistakes is a very necessary thing that we all should be aware of and that we should all consider starting. If it's something that we don't actually come to our nature, it's something we should read about, it's something you should obviously invest in, take some time to learn that kind of skill. It doesn't necessarily have to be a skill, but it's something that you should be aware of. Now, failure is a crucial, almost always necessary part of the path to our success or to your journey, wherever. But the thing is, there's much more to failure than just learning from your mistakes. You have to own up your mistakes. You have to own up to them. So failure, it will happen because of your own mistakes, and it won't sometimes. But regardless of the reason something didn't work out, it's important that you own the problem. Now, it's as human beings, we all make mistakes now and then. It's our nature. It's in the way we've been created. No one never makes any mistakes. We all make mistakes at a point of our lives. And sometimes it could be a relatively small mistake. Other times it could be a massive mistake. A small mistake is simple as making a typo in a report. That's a very simple mistake. But if we're talking about life situations, sometimes you could take the wrong decision. That could be a large mistake for you. Now, as I've mentioned, larger mistakes, if you are in a work environment, you could lose an important client. That's something very important for you, in your own business. If you have your own business. Now, the thing is, you don't have to beat up yourself. It's okay. You don't want to put the excuses for why it happened. You just have to appreciate, or you have to realize it happened and then accept it. And, own your mistakes. Learn from them and own them. Now, there are some benefits to owning your mistakes, definitely. Making a mistake, I get you, it doesn't feel good at all. But the thing is, if you don't handle the situation well enough, it can get worse. You know what I mean? So, an example is if you keep berating yourself, you have a hard time moving past it. It's simple as that. And you may even, a lot of the time, some people even lose their self-confidence. Whereas on the other hand, if you actually try to shift the blame to something else or someone else, it can even result in more tension, between you and that person, or between you or whatever relationship you have with that person. So when you own your own mistakes, you're actually demonstrating integrity and accountability. Now, you are being honest. It doesn't have to be with the people around you, but you are being honest with yourself first. It doesn't matter about the people around you, about your surrounding. You just have to be honest with your own self. It's a very important thing. Your own self comes first before everyone else. So if you actually own your mistakes, you are taking responsibility for your actions. The thing is, the more you take responsibility for your actions, the more adult you'll seem like, and at the same time, the more respect you'll get from people around you. You know what I mean? And people will look up to you, as a better person, someone they can always count on. Now, I'm gonna tell you a few. Actually, I'm not sure if it's you. Some points we're gonna discuss right now about how you can own your own mistakes. So, how do you go actually about owning your own mistakes? Think about this for a minute. For you personally, think about all the mistakes you've been through in your life, you've had in your life. Was there actually one mistake you felt like it was a massive big thing for you that was a life changer? How did you deal with it? Think about that with yourself. How did you deal with that mistake? Did it let you feel down all the time? Did you actually accept it and then learn from it, so next time you won't make this mistake again? That would be a very good thing to do, take it as a good lesson. Now, once you've had your own thoughts, now I'm going to tell you a few points about how you can actually own your own mistakes and become a better person. Now, the first thing is an important note is you need to recognize your own mistake. In other words, don't avoid it. So a lot of people tend to ignore the fact that they've made a mistake, so they feel better themselves, because the fact that they're thinking about the mistake will make them feel even worse. But the way of dealing with this is not correct. It's not going to get you anywhere. You're just ignoring it. You're just brushing it under the carpet. That's not going to work. You have to recognize your own mistake. That's a very important one to go for first. Now, the second thing is, once you've realized your own mistake, you should actually think about a solution. How can you amend the mistake? Can you amend it? What can you learn from it? All right. For example, if you've had a deadline and you've missed the deadline, you can determine how quickly you can realistically provide the delivered product or wherever you're doing or wherever you're providing. So that's a simple mistake that you can actually you can amend the mistake. Other times, of life situations, we do commit larger mistakes that can we can't go back from. So it all depends on the situation, but always think of a solution. How can you get around it? Now, you should present a solution as well. If there's someone else that that's been involved in this problem as well, or in this mistake, you should always speak to them, tell them what you're thinking about, about the alternative solution or whatever, and whether they could find it good or not to solve the problem, right? So being accountable, it just shows you are very responsible. I'll tell you something. As I've said, it's all human nature. When we make mistakes, I'll tell you just one thing. When you make a mistake, you should be prepared to take accountability for it. Don't regret it. Don't deny it. Just be great and accept it. All right? That's what I'm going to say. Now, reasonable people, they do realize that when a mistake has been made, and more often than not, owning up to them solves the problem. So if you obviously don't want the problem to keep rising and continuing and ruining your whole day or your whole week or whatever. So always own up your mistakes and learn from them, and don't let it destroy your day. You need to find a solution to solve it, right? And as I've mentioned before, you need to be honest with yourself first, because when you are being honest, it's just going to show you have integrity, which is very important. Now, unfortunately, for people, it's very easy to point fingers when things go wrong, or even when you don't speak up, it's very easy. Like, it's a human nature as well, just so the way society is. People, they can easily point fingers at other people if they did something wrong. So, and they can easily blame other people as well. So if you be honest with yourself and your people, your colleagues, your friends, whatever who you're dealing with, it's just going to show you have good integrity. All right. Now you need to realize everyone makes mistakes. Basically every single person makes mistakes. All right. The thing is, mistakes. When we make mistakes, we tend to think that people should be appreciative. When it comes to honesty as well. So the thing is, you have to build up trust between you and that person, whoever you've made mistake with, to solve the problem. Okay. Now, you should always be upfront. As I've said, if you made a mistake, you should take personal accountability for it and be honest about it, so you get a good solution and solve the problem of whatever you have. Now, there's a nice quote that I've read somewhere, and it was just saying that making mistakes is part of the learning process. I'll tell you what, it's very, very simple and easy for people to blame others. It's easier than actually admitting your own mistakes or your own faults or your own shortcomings or whatever. You might feel embarrassed. You might feel too proud to admit that you were wrong. You can spend your whole week, your whole life blaming the world. But, is that really worth it? You should just think about it for a minute. Will blaming other people get you anywhere? You're just not admitting something. You're not admitting that you've made a mistake, and then you're not being honest with yourself. You know what I mean? So making mistakes is an essential part of the learning process, because when you make mistakes, hopefully you're gonna learn from that mistake and take it as a life lesson, and then you won't repeat it next time. All right. Now, I'm gonna end this episode with something that I've read. Greatest of faults, I should say, is to be conscious of none. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave you with that. Think about the quote, and decide what to do with your own mistakes and how you can take a greater ownership of your own mistakes. Alright guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll be grateful if you could leave us a review on wherever you listen to podcasts from, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Listen Notes, and YouTube, and Spotify sometimes in some countries. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and don't forget, you can always comment on wherever you listen. Give us your review and your feedback. We'd love to hear it. We'll be very, very happy and pleased. Next episode, we're going to discuss how you can find a purpose and unlock your best life. Stay tuned. Bye bye.